All right, well, today we're going to be refurbishing and upgrading my 32-foot gooseneck enclosed car trailer. So we've had this thing for about 2 years now. We actually downsized to this size from a 36-foot. We had a 36-foot before. It was an older unit. It was kind of starting to fall apart, and it was just a very inefficient setup. It was a triple axle. It had cabinets running down the side. There was just a lot of wasted space, and it felt really inefficient to tow and travel with it. So I had thought about it for a while, and I decided on a 32-foot being kind of the optimal size for what we do, the type of cars that we take, and everything we need to bring in the trailer. And unfortunately, that's actually a very hard size to find, but I did manage to find this trailer, and it was really the perfect trailer for us. It's a 32-foot, it's all aluminum, so it's really lightweight. ATC, it's a nice brand, and it was already finished out on the inside with the wall skins and the lighting and stuff, but it was essentially an empty box. It didn't have any cabinetry whatsoever. It was actually used for hauling show motorcycles around. So we went ahead and outfitted it with cabinets. You know, for running a race program, going to events, we need storage for all sorts of things, spare parts, oil, jack, tools. So we put the cabinets in, countertops, we put the toolbox in, all of this stuff, and it's been great. We've used it a ton over the last 2 years, but throughout that time, we've come up with some areas that could use improvement. A bunch of different little things to make our lives easier, make it more efficient, just make it an overall better trailer package for what we do, and now it's finally time. We're gonna do all of them. We've collected all the parts, and we're gonna knock them all out at once. So this should be a pretty massive transformation. I'm excited. This is some of the stuff I've wanted to do since the beginning, and I'm glad we're finally getting around to it. So that being said, let me show you the first thing we're gonna start with. First thing we're gonna do is upgrade our trailer ramps. So it wasn't really a problem with this car when we were taking it because the bumper is very flexible and folds under the car. But this car has a carbon fiber front lip and it is not flexible. First time I tried to load it with the front lip, I cracked it. So as of right now, we've got to take the bumper off every time we put the car in and out of the trailer, which is an absolute nuisance. I hate having to do, I've tried to set this thing up to be kind of the minimal steps when we get to the track and when we leave the track. And we put the car in the trailer every night, so it's just a lot of taking the bumper on and off. It's silly, there's no need for it. We're gonna upgrade the ramp so we don't have to deal with that anymore. Not to mention the ramp that's currently on this trailer is a little worse for wear. It's starting to fall apart. Screws are constantly falling out of it. It really needed to be replaced anyway. So that's where we're gonna start. We're gonna pull this ramp off and start fitting on our new ramps. I didn't realize you weren't standing. Alright, so these are our new ramps. They are significantly longer. These are pretty light. So before we install the ramps themselves, we're changing out our rubber bumpers. So these are basically to keep the door from getting damaged when you have the door down and you're driving your car in and out of the trailer. And the ones that we had were pretty worn out, so we decided to swap them out with some new ones and go up to a 2-inch tall instead of a 1-inch tall bumper. Now that will lessen the angle of the door. It'll basically pick the end of the door up, which will decrease the angle, which will make it easier to get lowered cars in. Now, our problem really isn't with that, getting from the door into the trailer, but I figured we might as well give ourselves all the help we can get. So I went ahead and measured where we needed to put the ramps so that we could get them marked and installed. And as I'm doing this, Josue did something insane and read the instructions and realized that we're supposed to put the hinge on the bottom side. Now, I think it would work the other way, but it makes more sense doing it from the bottom. I don't know why I didn't think about that. So we went ahead and put it on the bottom on the second ramp. We had to drill our holes, do our rivets. It's always important to grind down the surface so your rivets sit flush, and then test fitted it into position, and we got to compare which way looks like it's going to work better since we still have the hinge on the top of the other ramp. And After looking at them side by side, I think having the hinge on the bottom is the better way to go. My biggest concern here is durability, and one nice thing about doing it this way is we can use the overhang of the ramp and have that kind of just barely on the door. So that way when the car's driving up, the load isn't only on the hinge and the pin of the hinge. I worried about that would tear it up eventually. So we get it in position, we get it where we want it, and we go ahead and drill our holes, pop our rivets in, and we're done with ramp number one. It folds, it works, and while we're here, we're gonna go ahead and drill our hole for our riv nut to secure the ramps when they're folded up and we're in transit, so they're not flopping around and tearing themselves apart. So now we gotta drill out the rivets. Luckily, we have enough extras, and put the hinge from the first ramp on the bottom side. Now, unfortunately, these holes aren't symmetrical, so we can't just go back through from the top. We can only get two to line up. So we've got to re-drill the holes through the hinge and into the ramp. So kind of unfortunate, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes when you don't pay attention, you don't read the instructions, and you don't know what you were supposed to do because you didn't read the instructions. So we get this ramp into position, drill it, rivet it, boom, we're good. Drill our hole for our rivet, and we are done with the ramp install. All right, ramps are on. It gives us a nice, smooth angle of attack. So that way, the front wheels are hitting before the bumper is digging into the increase in height. So those should work really well. We put them just inside the fenders because the Vet barely fits inside the fenders, and the Miata will be on towards the inside of the ramps, but that's our narrowest car that should go in here, and it'll still fit on the ramps. Good happy medium. I didn't like the idea of this kind of ramp setup, having the two, but we don't really ever put anything in this trailer that's not a car that needs to roll in there, and it's less weight flopping around. You know, if we got a gate that was similar length, even a 4-foot gate, that's a lot of weight to have flipped over. So that's why we put these riv nuts in. We'll have some little thumb screws, but I'm gonna test it out now with just some bolts to basically tighten the ramps down to the door so they can't flop around on us.
Solid.
Secure.
Yeah, we've seen what happens in the box. You never know what's going to happen in the box.
That's true. All right, sweet. Ramps are done. Pretty happy with that. This has been on the list for literally since we got the trailer. But one of those things, if it's not a huge problem, you put it off. So let me show you what's next. So the first thing we're working on is adding this system to our trailer. So this is actually one of the big reasons why, one of the selling points for me upgrading to a newer truck is the fact that we could add this. And I've had the truck for over a year, and we're finally getting around to adding it. So we're gonna be adding a trailer camera. So this is gonna go on the back of the trailer and allow us to see behind the camera, but while using the truck's display that shows all the other cameras. It'll interface with the truck as if it was just another camera. So we don't have to have any extra screen or do anything. We can just see behind the trailer on the truck's infotainment system. On top of that, we're also able to add these tire pressure monitoring sensors for our trailer wheels, which this, I mean, you had me at trailer tire pressure. You know, I was so stoked about this because one of the big reasons why trailer tires explode is because they go flat and you don't notice because you're all the way up there. You're not gonna notice that one of these is flat and then they explode. So if we can catch a low tire before it gets too low, we can save ourselves from having blowouts. So that'll be a really, really nice thing to have. It's something I've wanted to do since I got the truck, and I'm glad we're finally gonna be doing it. So not to mention having the camera back here. If you've ever towed with an enclosed trailer, you know, it's fine to back them up. It's a little tricky in some scenarios. You know, sometimes the mirrors get blocked and you can't see that well, but you never know what's behind you. And it's definitely always nerve-wracking to back up in a crowded area and you don't know if someone just happened to walk right behind the trailer and isn't paying attention and you're gonna run into them. Or, you know, you've had have a car pull up right behind you as you're backing up. It just makes it a nuisance to back up, and if you're in a crowded area, you usually need a spotter to make sure you don't run anyone over. So having a camera to be able to see behind the trailer is going to be a game changer. So that being said, Osley's gonna start working on that. I am gonna start working on upgrading our battery situation. So this has been one of our biggest annoyances with this trailer is the battery situation. This trailer has a really nice lighting system. It's got lights all the way down. They're really bright. They light up the whole place well. It's great. But we have to be super cautious with how much we turn them on because this battery is just not really big enough for that many lights. So I want to be able to turn the lights on and not have to worry about if we leave them on while I go out to drive for a session, you know, and have plenty of capacity for that. But this is kind of a two-for upgrade. There's another reason why we need to do these batteries, which is kind of forcing our hand to get them done now, and that is this, an electric trailer jack. So we're gonna be upgrading our trailer jack setup, assuming this works. I don't know for sure it's gonna work with our jacks. I'm really hoping it does. But this will give us an electric trailer jack, which will be so much nicer than having to manually crank them. It's something I did on my last trailer, and it was a night and day improvement. That is one of the biggest nuisances when unhooking and hooking the trailer back up, is having to crank that thing manually all the way up. Being able to lift it off the truck with a press of a button is gonna save us some time and some energy when we get to the track. So let me get these out of the box, and I'll show you what they look like. This is an Amazon special type deal. Oh gosh, that's heavy. Oh, these are huge. So we've got two giant AGM batteries and two boxes. This was kind of again, an Amazon special. I was literally just looking for a battery box. I was gonna get the same battery I already had as a secondary. But then I found these, it was 200 bucks per with the battery box. And this is a huge AGM sealed battery. We don't have to worry about ventilation. So anyway, I decided to just do two new batteries so we don't have to worry about running the batteries dead. These should be plenty of power to run the lights, run the jack for an extended period of time. So we gotta get these, the old one out and get these mounted in. Deep clean and like
bleach the walls.
Where you organize everything. Like that thing of sunscreen.
I was just literally looking at it. Thing's been broken for like 4 events at least.
Yeah, it's like, why is this in here? All right, well, we decided on mounting the battery boxes like this. Josue is working on pulling these panels out, these little trim corner panels. So we basically got to cut the silicone line all the way down to get this to drop out so that we can pull these panels out, because the best route for the camera wiring is going to be to come into this area here where the trailer jacks are. We'll run it up this wall into there and then all the way back to the back, because it's got to get up here anyway and go behind this panel to get to the camera. So one way or another, we're gonna have to, we either got to take this whole panel off to run it up this way or take these panels off. Not ideal, would prefer not to have to do this, but we gotta do what we gotta do. It'll be worth it for this trailer camera. All right, we got these panels off. You can see up in the guts, see the aluminum framework, the factory wiring just kind of ran through these clamps, pull it through, and then really we just needed this off to get through this back area. So Josue's starting on mounting the boxes up front here. We got a box for the TPMS. We got a yaw sensor box. I think it's like a stability control thing for the trailer. If the trailer gets out of shape, they try to make it easy on you. And the backup assist knob thing, which I don't see any reason to use that, but regardless, it's all kind of one system. So he's gonna get these mounted, the wiring hooked up. But in the meantime, I'm charging up the batteries. I'm gonna charge both of these up overnight. I'm gonna get our tire pressure sensors installed. So I gotta pull all 4 wheels off, de-bead them, get these installed, and then reseat the beads. So it's gonna be a little time consuming. I'm gonna start with this side, try to get this hammered out while the sun's not beaming. So pulling these wheels off wouldn't be too bad of a process if it weren't for these dang hubcaps. Now, I like the way these look because they match the truck wheels, but they are a nuisance. You basically got these 2 big threaded lugs that thread onto the actual wheel studs, and then have the vanity caps that thread onto those. So just getting them off, they get bound up, and then you can take the actual wheel off. This is your PSA to buy nice trailer tires. When I got this trailer, it had some pretty fresh 80% tread tires. We had a blowout on the very first trip. I bought these, which were like 20 bucks more a tire than the cheap ones, and I've never taken them off in the 2 years we've been running this trailer. And look at them, they look brand new still. And they look like a semi-tire. They're beefy as hell, but I feel like you save money in the long run with trailer tires just buying the nicer ones, because they don't blow them out all the time. So my goal here is to try to avoid having to completely remove the tire. These tires are big and they're bulky and they're sometimes hard to seat the bead on, as surprising as that is with a small wheel. So I'm trying to get the sensor in while just de-beading the tire and pushing the bead in. Now, it was tight. This is a big tire on a relatively small wheel, but we managed to get it on and get it aired up, and that's one done and dusted. So now we know that it's gonna work and we can go ahead and take the rest off. I didn't want to take all the wheels off and then find out that these sensors weren't going to fit. The instructions were kind of vague on what wheels these were meant to be used with. So these being standard trailer wheels, I assumed it would fit, but I don't like to make assumptions with stuff like this and create more work for myself than there needed to be because I didn't pay attention to the instructions. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? So we get the second wheel put back on with the TPMS sensor, get it torqued down, deal with the annoying overly complex vanity cap, and we're done and dusted with TPMS sensors. All right, I've got the TPMS sensors installed in all 4 wheels. There's just enough room to get the sensor in there without taking the tire all the way off. So it was tight, but we got it done. And once we had the process, it went pretty quick for the other ones. So Josue's working on taming the spaghetti up here. So you can see how this works. Got our main trailer plug. This is our trailer plug for the TPMS sensors and the camera. Wiring goes up there. It's got a little docking thing, which is kind of neat. So when we're not using the trailer, we can plug that one in there and keep the wiring harness up out of the way. But it routes here. Then we got this grommet. Boom. Just did that hole. Oh, bada bing, bada boom. I need to move on to mounting the batteries. But before I do that, I have one more little side project, side quest. So I got my little thumb screws in the mail today, which they're perfect. They're pretty much exactly what I was going for. No tool needed, boom, boom. But I'm big on efficiency. I feel like these are gonna get lost very easily, or it's gonna be a nuisance. So you imagine we get to the track, you unscrew it, you flip the ramp down, now you've gotta put them somewhere so you don't lose them. So we probably put them in the toolbox here. But then, drive the car in, flip the ramps up, realize you need the thumb screws, then you gotta walk all the way around, come in here, dig around in the toolbox, find them, go back, put them back in. So we're gonna change that. We're gonna build these things a little second home, a vacation home, if you will. So that way they're always close by and they don't get lost. So let me go get some tools. I'll show you what I've got planned. So what we're gonna do is put another rib nut close by. It's got to be kind of far enough down to where we don't have to worry about the ramps hitting the ground. I think like around there should work. It's below there. I do want to shorten these a little bit. They're a little on the long side. Go to the other side and then try it out. Alright, I'm gonna shorten these and then put the ramps down. All right, satisfying little project done. Time to move on to the big stuff. Let's get these battery boxes sorted out. I started working on getting the battery boxes screwed in and mounted. Josue started working on drilling our hole to run our wiring through for our camera. Now, this is the most dreaded part of this process for me, and it's the reason we're finally just now doing it, even though I've had the truck for a year, because it's annoying. We're trying to route wires through small areas like this. You either got to take a lot of stuff apart or deal with what we're about to deal with, which is trying to snake it through. Now, the problem is the connector's a little big and the grommet's a little big, and trying to get all that to go through, it's just not working out so well. All right, well, we had to, it was a show. We ended up having to depin the connector, which I hate depinning stock, like OEM connectors. Locks are so tiny, but had to do what we had to do. So now we got it ran through here, so we're good. Because the only way to take this panel off, if we were to have taken this off, would be to remove this cabinet, which is full of stuff. I mean, we are going to reorganize this, and that cabinet. And then they're self-tappered in, so like when you take a self-tapper out, I feel like I always worry they're not going to tighten down as good the second time. So anyway, tried to avoid that. We did avoid it. We got the wire through. So I think from here on out, it's not too bad. We'll hang it up. Then we got to shove it through there and then through that. So with the hardest part out of the way of getting the wiring just pointed downwind down the trailer and out where we can get to it and where we can access it, Josue and Raldo continued working on that, and I moved back to the batteries. Now, I made a new ground cable because that cable was just a little undersized and a little beat up and corroded, and I decided to just go ahead and replace the rest of these cables. I'm upgrading from 8 gauge to 6 gauge. Not really that critical since nothing we have in here at the moment is super high current, but just something I want to do. I'd rather have a little too much wire than a little too little wire. So I started getting the main battery cables made up as well as the wiring to go down to the electric trailer jack setup that we're going to be adding, just so that's out of the way. It's done. It's down there. I don't have to come back in here and fuss with this. Later on, it's all ready to go. It's finished up, and that's the last thing that we know of that we need to add on here. So I start test fitting all the wires to make sure I've got all my links right, and it's just a game of making up battery cables. So we've not only got to tie these batteries into the systems, this power inverter, the main fuse box, all of those things, but we've also got to tie them to each other so that they're working together and we're using the capacity of both of them. We could run them with a switch and use one, then when it dies, use the other, but this is the way I like to do it. That way we have the capacity there at all times. We don't have to think about it or worry about it. So while I was doing that one tedious project, Josue and Raldo were wrapping up another tedious project of routing the camera wires. We ended up having to take a lot more of the inner skin of the trailer off than we expected, and it's a well-made trailer, so it was pretty challenging, but we got it in there, we got it routed, we got it hooked up. We've got a camera, officially. Look at that, camera is installed. That looks great, Jose. All right, now we gotta see if it works.
Noise, yep, and adjust the rod.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Oh, that's what that's for.
I figured that out too.
Come on, Bertha.
Apparently. Let's see here. Camera. Oh, that's not good. All right, we got the camera working. It wasn't working. I pinned the two violet wires backwards. Looking at the picture, I thought one was yellow, but it was the green one. It's a very, very faint little line that I had to go by. So I just switched them since those are the two same color, and it works. See, we can see the ramp. The ramp's pretty much perfect. Goes right up to the bottom of the trailer. So we should be able to see where the trailer is when we're backing up. Check it out. What do you guys think? Can you see it? Nice. Now we can try to do the tire pressure thing again. I got you a gauge this time.
It might be a speed thing. I think it timed us out.
All right, well, the camera system is pretty well finished up. You can see the camera mounted up there. It's aimed perfectly. Everything works. The wiring's tucked nice. We went with a smaller grommet just to minimize the hole we had to drill through, keep everything nice and sealed up. We'll go in and silicone that as well. But we got that working, so that's sweet. We got to tuck the wiring up still. I did get my wiring done for my batteries, so pretty happy with how these came out. Mounted in a good spot, wiring's clean, redid pretty much all the wires except for this power lead to the little fuse box here. Everything else is new ground and power is tying them together. All in all, pretty happy with that. Now for the tire pressure sensors, which is kind of the other half of the factory stuff install, the kit that I got, we had a little bit of trouble with them. You have to do basically a programming procedure where it'll tell you, it'll point at a tire, and then you let air out of that specific tire, so that way it ties that sensor to that location, so you know which tire is which, right? But we just could not get them all to register. You know, at first we could only get one to read, then we got two to read, then we got three to read, but we couldn't get the fourth one. Now, I do know that with TPMS setups, like on a vehicle, if you look in the owner's manual for this truck, even it tells you to drive it first and then do the reset. So I think maybe that's what we're missing here. We just need to go drive it around a little bit and then do the setup, hopefully. I really want to get that working. So that being said, next up is our electric jack install. It's going to go right in here. So you can see the wiring I routed down here for it. Obviously it's extra long, but I wanted to make sure we had plenty of length. So basically we're going to be taking this shaft out, and replacing that with a motor. Now this could potentially be really easy or it can be really difficult. So this kit is from Bulldog Jacks. Yeah, Bulldog Jacks. So it says it's specifically for their jack system. But their jack system looks the same as what I have. I don't know what I have, it's just whatever the trailer came with. If the motor goes in, if this shaft works and pins into our gears on our power side jack, the rest should work, basically. But that's just the big unknown now. So I'm hoping this will work. And if it does work, it shouldn't be too bad of an install. So we gotta go get that panel off and start pulling the cross shaft out and dive in and see if this is gonna work. Fingers crossed. We should be able to, yeah, just like that. Oof, it is different. All right, so as you can see, this shaft is 1 inch in diameter. If you look at this shaft, I already went ahead and put the top back on and put the crossbar back in, but 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And there's just no good way to modify this to get that larger one through, because we'd have to drill that out. We'd have to drill the gear and the whole gear sleeve out. The gear's on the wrong side. It's on the left instead of the right. I don't think there's any good way to make this work. I did consider chopping this shaft, chopping the other shaft, drilling a hole and plug welding it. But the downside is that motor relies on the shaft to hold itself in place. That's what essentially mounts it to the post. So you'd be putting all that load on that weld and on this smaller diameter shaft, and I'd have to take that motor apart in order to weld it because there's seals that would melt out if I didn't. So I don't think there's any good way. I mean, you could definitely make it work, but I don't think there's any good, clean way to make that motor work with these jacks. Now that leaves us a couple of options. I can either return that motor setup, and I found another motor setup that still may or may not work with those jacks. It's still kind of iffy. I think it needs to mount on the outside, which doesn't have enough room, blah, blah, blah. Or I could get the Bulldog jacks and replace those jacks with a new set of the same brand jacks that motor's meant to work with. I don't really need them, you know, like those jacks have always worked flawlessly, like they go up and down super smooth. So I ran across this product on the internet that I have a hard time believing it's actually gonna work. So we decided just to see, we're gonna make our own. So Josue's drilling the holes now. You'll see what this is all about once we get it finished, but we're gonna whip this thing up real quick and then see proof of concept, see if this theory works. If it works, then it might be an easy way out of this. There's no way the drill's gonna be strong like this. If it works, we'll do a second pass.
If it works, we'll give it some fine detail.
Yeah, we'll do a second pass and we'll clean it up and paint it.
Yeah.
So you can see our little slit here. This is gonna slide over the pin like the handle would. This is gonna go into the drill. We needed something nice and thick with 3 flat slides to chuck into the drill so it wouldn't slip. And this is a hole saw we had. I bought a replacement for $9, so this whole thing cost us $9 to try. So, you know, not a huge risk. Let's let it cool down and see if it'll do it. Science rules.
Yeah, that'd be hype if it works.
Right? Same. Got a total of 20 minutes invested in this from concept to finish product. Maximum grab. Let's freaking do it. All right, moment of truth here.
Yeah, he said hold on to her.
I'm like trying to break my wrist, but. Oh,
That heavy?
yeah, it started dying. God damn. Are we off it?
I mean, it's off. Oh, it's off now.
It's like you just gotta...
Yep, you're off.
You gotta give it a couple resets. I mean, it did it.
Bit of a workout. It did it.
I mean, it's definitely better than cranking it. Cause that's we're way off.
No, yeah.
We don't ever go that high. If you guys want to take a look. And that drill is like 6 years old. It's probably the new ones. A little stouter. Yeah, like we're way off. We normally go just above, and even that's a chore. All right, let's drop it back down. Back off. I think that might be maxed out actually. That's pretty cool. It works. Alright, well, it's safe to say, A, our creation works. B, we're not going to be cranking this thing again. We might do a back-to-back out of curiosity to see how much. It takes way longer to hand crank it, and it's like it's not light, it's heavy. I can't believe this thing did it. Once we lubed it up and did it again, had the method down, it went all the way up, but probably what, 15 seconds?
Yeah.
What, 15 seconds from hooked up to the truck to off. It normally takes us like a minute or two of cranking. Wild. That's sick. What a Milwaukee commercial. This drill is a beast. And this is an old one. I don't know. I imagine there's new generations after this one. I've had this one for probably 5 years now. So, with the electric jack situation kind of handled for now, we can move on to putting the trailer back together. I don't like leaving projects unfinished like this, especially this trailer. You know, once you start taking these things apart, it's difficult to make them everything go back together the way it was before. You know, it almost feels like it'll never be the same. So I wanted to get this done while it was still fresh and we remembered how everything went together. And that way it's done and it's not something we got to worry about. We don't have pieces scattered about that we could step on or tear up. So we get all those panels put back in and screwed back in, and then I moved on to closing up the front of the trailer. But I had a realization, another side project we could do. You know what, actually, before I close this up, I just thought of something that I bought for my old trailer. And now it seems we don't need to use the wiring for the winch, we could use the wiring for this. Let me go dig it out. So I have this thing. It's a little dual USB deal and a voltmeter, so we can see if we're running the batteries low. So since I already ran those wires, all I got to do is put spades on them, boom, boom, and drill a hole. Now, the very ironic thing, this is 29 millimeters, which means I need a 30 millimeter hole saw, which is the one we sacrificed for the tool. Well, I got this step in, so this will work. Put some connectors on this. Ready to party. All right, front of the trailer is all put back together. I got the TPMS box back up in place. Really happy with how that wiring looks. With that grommet, looks factory. So pretty happy with that. It's all done and dusted, like it never happened. Then in here, Josue's working on cleaning the walls and just we're cleaning up in general, vacuuming and stuff. But we've got our voltmeter and USB outlet. That is going to be so handy. I'm so glad I remembered that. There's so many times at events where you need to charge a phone or a camera or things like that, and these batteries have plenty of reserve capacity to charge a lot of that stuff. So sometimes we're at the track for long hours, and everything starts to lose its charge. So that'll be nice. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I got this place spiffed up a little bit, so we're gonna finish cleaning. We're gonna batten down the hatches, and then take this thing for a little drive. See if we can't get the TPMS sensors to activate and get those programmed and set. So that's done and working. And then also get to test out the backup camera. I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's gonna help a lot getting the trailer into my driveway here. I'm curious to see how it is, you know, in practice, actually using it. So anyway, I'm gonna get back to cleaning and then we'll take this thing for a little drive. Well, in the traditional theme of this project and how it's gone so far, we came across another side project that popped up and I thought about doing while we were there, while we're in here, and that is painting these walls. So the previous person who had this trailer had touched these up with house paint. They got worn out because they strapped tints there and they just painted it with roll-on house paint, which is the worst thing they could have done because now they're super textured and it traps all this dirt and grime. Long term, I'd like to replace these panels entirely and make it look way nicer, make them match, but in the short term, just so it's not so much of an eyesore, I've got a few cans of gloss white spray paint. We might as well paint them up and make them look a little bit closer to the neighboring panels. All right, well, I thought I had a third can of spray paint, but I did not, so we ran out of spray paint. It looks way better though, so far. Just need to get a couple more cans, come back, do a second coat, and finish it out. Way better than that. It's something that's bugged me for a long time. So we'll get this finished up later, but in the meantime, Jose's gotta leave soon, so I want to go on a drive before he heads out. After a drive, like it needs to be immediate, you know? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of scenarios, like when we were at Grid Life trying to find a spot backing up, you know, like it's crowded, people are walking back and forth, you know, being able to see behind the trailer and just make sure you're not gonna run someone over would be pretty nice. All right, let us see. Box camera. That's one thing I hate about this.
Resets when you go to reverse.
Yeah. Okay, I'm clearing the tree.
Don't hit my truck.
I mean, that worked. That definitely helps. All right, let's try to do this tire pressure set. You got the gauge? All right, we did it. We finally got it. Dude, I'm stoked, finally. Finally, hopefully it stays working. All right, trailer sensors officially work. Camera officially works, definitely very helpful. So now the last step, I went and grabbed some spray paint. Try to finish out these walls. This is what I could get on a Sunday at the parts store. Not my ideal choice, but should do the trick. Well, in hindsight, I probably should have made the longer trip to go to Lowe's or some hardware store or Walmart and picked up the same paint we were using. I really like that Rust-Oleum gloss enamel. It worked really well. It's a nice finish. It's super durable. This stuff was pretty terrible. It had a super wide spray pattern and it was not ideal for this scenario. There's so much texture on these walls that it just soaks up so much of the paint, and you've got to get it at so many different angles that it just didn't work out great. I should have gone and got some better paint. All right, well, it's not perfect, but it's better than it was. In hindsight, I should have just got a gallon of white paint, even maybe tried to match this exact paint. It's crazy how many different colors of white paint there are, but, and just sprayed it with the paint gun, you know, the compressor. That would have been smarter. Just the texture that was here from the house paint made it really hard to get good coverage. But again, better than it was. Better than freaking peach. With a bunch of dirt mixed in. All right, well, we got everything done that we wanted to get done. We kind of got a little little helping hand with the electric jack. We technically didn't get that done, but we came up with a solution anyway. Oh yeah, still 12.6, been 12.6 this whole time. I'm really happy with that. I love doing these trailer projects and trying to make this thing more efficient, and this is stuff we've had on the list for a long time to do. So we may readjust the trailer jack situation. We'll see how the drill thing works out long term. I do want to add a couple other things. A trailer step, I want to do a winch. The company that makes the cabinets that I use, the Midwest Race cabinets, they have an N4 winch. So it's a box, goes flush in the floor, and when you use it, you flip it up, flip the little thing up, use the winch. That way you don't have to take up a whole cabinet with it. That would be nice, so we don't have to work the clutch getting the car in and out. You have to fix this. It's a tight fit with the vet, so it hits. So I need to get some angle iron and weld some angle over that to kind of beef it up. But yeah, other than that, we accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish. So I'm stoked. Let me know what you guys think of the trailer upgrades, anything you would add, subtract. But I'm pretty happy with it. I can't wait to use it again. Race season is starting up here in the next month, so we'll get to put it to use plenty here soon. So that being said, sun's going down. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. But I do want to say thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and then I sure hope to see you next time. Goodbye.